You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. I'm Kyah Ann, your host and a yoga instructor on the Chicago scene. And if you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. And if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be because I have the usual up for you all today. Yoga news, where I speak about what's going on in the world and how it relates to yoga. Yoga Hills, where I invite on a very special guest and talk to them about their practice. And the Weekly Wellness Challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. Let's take this moment to go inward, to focus on our breath, to focus on our prana. Prana, translating to breath, is in the breath of life, our life energy source. There's many translations, but no matter where you're at, you're sitting in the car, you're sitting on the couch, you're laying in your bed, you're walking in the park, there's an array of options. Just take this moment to align your spine. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown so breath can effortlessly move through you. And just start to notice your breath and what it does and how you breathe naturally without controlling it. And just know you can always come back to this. Let's start by pushing out all of the breath so we can start a new breath cycle together. Inhale through your nose, right into your belly. And exhale, let out a sigh and push out all the breath. Keeping a nice upright spine, inhale through your nose to fill your belly up like a balloon and hold at the top. And then exhale, sighing it out, deflating your belly, pushing out all the air. Inhale through your nose, let the breath travel to any part of your body that needs attention and nourishment, and hold. And exhale, let out that sigh, pushing out all the breath, expelling all the air, expelling what you do not need, and holding at the bottom. Inhale to fill all the way up into your belly, up to your collarbone. And exhale, letting out that dramatic sigh, pushing out all the air. Let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga news. Naomi Klein says yoga teachers and white wealthy fitness gurus are fueling vaccine skepticism. Canadian author says yoga studios are a hotbed for conspiracy theories. That's so crazy. First, I'd like to say, what's wrong with skepticism? I hate how skepticism has been demonized, especially when it comes to like the holistic healing or the holistic health world. Everything should be in question, critical thinking. We should all be able to ask questions and to not just accept everything that is given to us. Like, we should be able to dig a little deeper and really be like, I don't know about that. Or, dig a little deeper and find out and say, hey, no, this is the truth. This is really the answer to my problems. Why is it acceptable to be skeptical in some areas in life, but not others? Like, no, we should all around be skeptical and dig further and want more information and just be smarter and wiser. Like, what's wrong with that, Yoga is part of holistic health or holistic healing or holistic wellness. So, of course, there are a lot of conspiracy theorists that are also into yoga. Personally, I love good conspiracy theory. Sometimes people are conspiring and there is more than meets the eye or more information than what is just known commonly. Some things are deeper. Now, I'm not saying that the conspiracy theories are right, and I'm not going to say that they're just completely wrong. You know, I can't give the answers for everything, but I can say I hope that we can live in a world where we create more space for different lines of thoughts. Like, you know, step out of judgment and step into curiosity, if you know what I mean. We should all be able to ask questions. Everybody knows that saying, you know, no question is a stupid question or whatever. It was like, yeah, but we should all be able to ask questions, be skeptical, dig deeper, or just be open to other people's lines of thoughts. That's love. You know, yoga is all about love and being more loving to people. So we should be more loving to each other, to ourselves, but definitely to each other, even when we have differing opinions and differing beliefs. We should be like, you know what? We don't see eye to eye on this, but still approach the situation with love and compassion. But she's like, you know, yoga studios are a hotbed for conspiracy theory culture, which is hilarious. And honestly, in my experience, that hasn't been the case, but I'm sure that exists. But that's just because it's associated with holistic healing. But in some cases, and maybe a lot of cases, holistic healing is the answer. It is true, and it's really beneficial. I mean, I'm not saying that that's the end all be all, but I think it's just, again, it's important to be open to everything, you know. I don't see a problem with conspiracy theory culture. I mean, I guess sometimes it can be problematic, but I think question asking should be encouraged. To me, it's suspicious when somebody is so fixated on wanting everybody to think the same thing. That's a conspiracy right there. Like, you know, why demonize one thing? Like, okay, I don't know. It's a touchy subject. People are very, very passionate about it. And I used to be passionate about this at one point too. But now I try to be open to all different perspectives. But one thing I don't like is when somebody tries to change my perspective. You could find evidence to support whatever you think. I could find evidence to support what I think. You could find evidence to support what you think. And honestly, I just think the best thing we can all do is just live the way that we think we should live and see what happens. Like, sometimes you just gotta experiment on yourself and see what works and what doesn't work. But anyways, I don't know this Naomi Klein person, this Canadian author, but this article came up and I was like, I want to talk about this, but I don't want to talk about it too deeply because it was such a polarizing subject, and I just hate how a lot of people separated over this subject, and it just, again, it made us love each other less, and we don't need that. We need to love each other more. This is all about health and wellness, and part of health and wellness is community and love, feeling love, giving love. That does so much for us in our spirituality and our mentality and all that jazz. So it's just so important to just be full of love. So to have topics like this that polarize people and throw love out the window, it's like, man, we need to love each other through it. Like, come on. Yoga heals. This week's guest is Daniel. I actually met him at Yoga View as he was finishing his yoga teacher training. He's a multicultural, very enthusiastic yoga practitioner with a background in healthcare as a medical interpreter, health counselor, clinical research assistant, and so much more. His health journey and self-discovery process has allowed him to understand that wellness starts with mental hygiene. His mission is to fuse traditional mindfulness techniques with indigenous philosophy to reunite individuals with their relationship to the earth. I'm so excited for this discussion, so let's just get on to it. Hello, Daniel. How are you doing today?
Good, good. I had a lovely yoga session today. Thank you so much for asking.
Thank you so much for coming on to the Perfect Prana show. I'm super blessed and excited to have you with us today. The first question I ask every single person that comes onto the show is, when did you start practicing yoga? Why do you still practice yoga today?
I'm still crafting that story because I was first introduced to yoga back in high school. This was a great opportunity for me to get to know the asana practice very briefly with a teacher. And this was also high school. So I kind of like took the opportunity to fall asleep during Shavasana in school, which was never allowed. But that was a very sporadic thing that happened afterwards, right? The practice didn't really have a good cadence since then. I practically did not really get serious with yoga up until 2020 when the pandemic happened. This is, this was my opportunity to stay home and kind of like I first off needed a fitness practice for myself since I wouldn't be able to go to the gym. And I realized that that fitness, physical practice, gave me a lot of benefits that my regular gym routine did not. So, coupled with some books that I found in my bookshelf, which also I consider seeds of thought that were given to me back in college, I actually came across a copy of the Bhagavad Gita that I had in my bookshelf that I read up and it touched on yoga. So it was just like, oh my God, look at this. This is actually what I'm doing right now. And not only that, but there was that deep cognition or deep understanding that the book was giving me in terms of answers that I was looking for, philosophical answers, right? That I was not expecting to get. So this was definitely a very meaningful moment in my life to get close with that book. I was also going through unemployment, so I definitely had a lot of free time in my mornings to wake up, establish a morning routine, get on the floor on the yoga mat, and do some deep soul searching. So it really started from there, right? So I like to visualize it as imagine somewhat of a sine wave that is like, it started back in before 2010. And then that point of the sine wave just kind of created a pendulum effect that did not really come back until 10 years later. But because that pendulum came back and was activated, it kept coming and going and coming and going. And that's where we are today, right? As I'm talking to you today, I just finished a yoga teacher training program that allowed me to deepen my practice in 12 weeks. And it really gave me an amazing foundation of everything that I wanted, a deeper understanding of the asanas, the philosophical standing, and the readings that we were able to go through to understand the philosophy behind the eight limbs of yoga, for example, and also the meditation, which I also started practicing. So fast forward to now, it's just like it's finally a practice that I can maintain in my daily life day by day. And that's also allowed me to tap into an amazing community, which is the Chicago yoga community.
Yes, I love the Chicago yoga community. There was
Mhm.
several things that you said that I wanted to ask you more about. First, you mentioned that you felt yoga was giving you benefits that your regular gym routine just
Mhm.
was not. What were the benefits?
Oh my God. I guess starting with having a better domain of my body while practicing compassion for myself is one of those things that I was never able to practice or in my, let's say, weightlifting routine, which, prior to yoga, I would look at myself and compare myself to others and, go into this like egotistic trip, right? In my own mind of comparing myself and saying, why can't I do that? Why can't I just get to that point? And I know a lot of us have gone through that. Where with yoga, it was such an intimate practice, right? It was just nobody else but my breath and my body in the room. And eventually, I also learned to kind of calibrate that set mentality that I brought with me to my yoga practice, because I would also show up to the studio thinking, man, I need to be just like this other person who is just as like, who's also really good, maybe as good as me. And, I would also, again, jump on that egotistic a trip and really think about it from that perspective until I learned that it was not about that at all. The concentration really required me to tune into my body, to not observe what's going on around, if not for inspiration. That's also something I learned through a great book. Um, and I want to say that's something that yoga gave me that my prior athletic training did not give me, among several other things. So aside from domain of my own body and my own mental state, feeling good in my own body, right? Not feeling sore the next day because I overworked myself. I realized, like, wow, I finished a very hard yoga practice today. I can do it again later today. It's not gonna it's not gonna mess up my back. It's not gonna mess up my joints, anything like that. And I guess a third point was that my physique was taking on a more natural posture, right? Which is a very, you know, um, natural thing to say with yoga. It will allow your body to kind of like open up to that openness that now I realize it's that openness that I had when I was a child, right? And I take a lot of emotional meaning behind that as I have entered that mental process of integrating my own inner child with my meditation and myself and my authenticity. I realized that my body also required that authenticity, which I've also deepened through dancing and yoga. But there was a rigidity that I was practicing prior to yoga, let's say with lifting, that did not allow my body to really express itself the way it needed to. So that's a huge third point for me, the authenticity of the body revealed through yoga.
Man, as soon as you said posture, I just sat up a little straight.
Yeah.
I was also going to ask you, you mentioned a morning routine.
Yeah.
And what did that morning routine look like? And did you still carry that morning routine with you when life started to pick back up after the pandemic?
It was definitely like my ideal spiritual morning routine, right? Which entail waking up, go into the balcony to take a fresh breath of air, not from my home, but from outside, eating something very light, and then getting down on the mat, right? If not, to do some yoga right away, to pick up my book and read it, right? And even just the act of reading allowed my body to ground itself and um to feel at ease, right? Being in that position, which in the modern world we're not used to sitting on the floor or anything like that. You wake up, and I've also gone through this. A lot of us that work remotely, we would wake up directly to sit into the chair, right, and stay there for 8 9 hours. So this was the
You're listening to the Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where you can hear the rest of my conversation with Daniel. To hear Daniel's pranayama, the weekly wellness challenge, and the quote of the week, stay tuned. Before we go, I would like to ask you to lead us through a short pranayama, your choice, for the Perfect Prana Show.
Yeah, definitely. I had to look at the different pranayamas. I definitely um, took some inspiration from Iyengar's book, Light on Yoga. And so these are some instructions for Sitali. The translation is cool. So Sitala means cool. So this pranayama cools the system, and that's the name of it. I also chose it because it's an 85-degree day in Chicago right now, and this is one to really keep in mind as we're cooling our bodies. So you're sitting already. For anybody else listening, you could be sitting in Padmasana, easy position, or on a chair, whatever works for you. And keeping our posture completely erect, letting our heart float and lifting our crown. We're keeping this posture as we perform the your favorite mudra with your free hands. So the cool thing about this pranayama is that you don't need to touch your nose. I love those pranayamas, but I also like using both of my hands for mudras or anything like that. We're now just engaging our hands, both hands, in your preferred mudra. You could also engage your Jalandhara Bandha, but that's not until the inhalation is over. So first you'll open your mouth in an O position. So you'll create an O with your lips. And you're kind of like pushing your tongue out, also creating an O or let's say a U. So the sides and the tip of the tongue are touching the teeth from the molars to the front teeth. And keeping your tongue lifted and curled up. This is a fun one because it looks very funny. It's silly to look at, but it's obviously very useful, right? A lot of things in yoga can look silly, but it's your body, like you have to use those tools.
I actually heard that certain people like just can't do this
Oh, yeah, that's
genetically.
right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
I guess the adjustment is just to do the O with your lips. Like if you can't curl your tongue.
So keeping the shape of your tongue and I love how the book describes it. It says it resembles a fresh curl leaf about to open. How poetic and reminiscent of the spring. So you'll protrude your curled tongue out of your lips and draw in air past the curled tongue. You'll be making a sound, right? So whenever you're ready, go ahead and pulling some air to the brim of your lungs. Hold the breath, withdraw the tongue and close your mouth. Engage your neck bandha. I'm forgetting the name for this, but essentially you'll unite your chin with the notch of your collarbone and exhale through your nose. So that completes one cycle. We'll go ahead and do it for a couple more times. So curl your tongue, inhale. Hold. Exhale. One more time. Hold. Exhale. Come back to your normal breathing and feel the cooling effect of Sitala.
It is a safe way, at least I feel like it's a safe way to breathe through the mouth. Because other than that,
Yeah.
I'm like, do not breathe through the mouth. And it feels wrong to breathe through the mouth.
Yes.
Like even if I just did, like it just feels like I'm just taking in a lot of weirdness into my throat. But that feels like a nice, safe way. Like you're just slowly taking the breath in, like through a little stream. And it is cool air, so
It is cool air.
it's needed in the summertime for sure, especially since I drink hot coffee, even if it's 100 degrees outside. Like I'm gonna drink hot coffee and then just sweat. So
I'm the same way with soup. I'll make soup no matter how hot it is.
Right. So thank you so much, Daniel, for coming on to the Perfect Prana show. And with that being said, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
If you'd like to connect with Daniel, I'll put his information in the show notes. Weekly Wellness Challenge. So I have been repeating the 8 limbs of yoga because I've come to realize it's an endless cycle. We will always be grappling with this philosophy. We'll always have to face these morals, and we'll always have to implement these disciplines to make sure that we're living a better quality life. This week's challenge, Asteya, which is stealing. There's so many ways to think of how we steal from ourselves, how we steal from others. And right now, personally, I've been trying to get my life on track. So I'm feeling the need to give time to myself. I don't know what I did in season 2 for this challenge, but right now I have the strong urge to give myself 10 minutes every day before I leave the house, instead of like rushing out and just feeling like I have no time. I don't have enough time. I hate how that feels. So I want to start giving myself 10 minutes, not to anybody else. 20 minutes would be nicer, but 10 minutes feels more realistic. But I don't want to give it to my job. I don't want to give that 10 minutes to a friend. I don't want to give that 10 minutes to my family. I don't want to give that 10 minutes to my phone, to YouTube, to Instagram, to whoever. I want to give that 10 minutes to myself. Like, I'm craving that time to just be like, just with myself. Honestly, I had a little bit of that this morning before I went to work. Not really, because I was constantly doing stuff trying to get out the door, which is fine. But this morning was an odd morning because I wasn't listening to stuff as I was getting ready. Like, I was appreciating doing my task in silence and just being with myself and just mindfully doing my task. Like, okay, let me just do what I need to do, and I'm not trying to distract myself with stuff. So I appreciated that aspect of my morning. Now, I wish I could have sat down for 10 minutes this morning and just been in silence and, not had any responsibilities or even yoga. I did one sun salutation this morning. I wish I could have given myself more time to do more, but I couldn't. I had to rush out for work. Like, let me not be late. But it would have been great if I could have did 5 sun salutations this morning, not just one. But, I couldn't give myself enough time. And I stole that time from myself last night when I was up on the phone doing whatever I was doing last night. I was stealing time from myself this morning, and I really would have appreciated that moment of just being with myself. But, you live and you learn. Hopefully I learn. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. So I've been studying to get my personal training certificate, and I've been doing a little bit of reading, looking at the textbooks, anatomy, bodies, movement, exercise, all that great fun stuff. I'm actually going to take a quote from Nazim this week. And who knows where she got this quote from, but I thought it was pretty profound. I liked it. And she said that all bodies are energy in motion. I don't know. I felt like that was profound, but that's something I've discovered since, I went on my whole wellness journey. It is so important to move, to be in motion. If you're alive, you're in motion. If you're not moving, then you're not living. And living is a gift. Life is a gift. So we need to live. We need to move. It's been a great show. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX. Also available on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, where I post extended versions. To keep up with me, follow me on Instagram at Consistently Kyah, consistently spelled with a K, Kyah spelled Kyah. If you're in the Chicago area and you would like to come practice yoga with me, visit the LA Fitness on King Drive, Wednesdays at 9:45 a.m., Saturdays at 11 a.m. It's been so lovely chatting with all you folks. With that being said, the light and darkness within me bows to the light and darkness within you. Namaste.